Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
In answer to his question about the subjects.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Commands Talk Today.
Oh, what a compliment. For that, I thank you.
What is happening now? There are hopeless and hungry.
Now it's time for us to stand up for God or we'll fall to nothing.
It's time now for Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Listening to the general public, what the public is saying.
And welcome to Talk Today. Good afternoon and a very happy New Year's Eve, Radio Cayman Nation. I'm Raymond Singh filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Less than 12 hours remaining into 2020. I know some people have started their countdown from last week, trying to end off this very trying year. Some are really excited for 2021. Some are scared, don't want to be too excited about 2021, but to each their own. We do wish to extend another warm thank you to all of our loyal listeners out there in Radio Cayman Nation who have been with us throughout the year. We do have a very special show today, and we're sitting down with several experts to help guide you on your New Year's resolutions. Starting off with Encore's Cayman. We do have some of the therapists from Encore's Cayman here in studio. As always, we do welcome your stories, feedback, and questions and invite you to join our conversation. Simply dial 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. Or you can WhatsApp us at 925-3261. We're back with more talk today right after this very brief disclaimer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you are just tuning in, I'm Raymond Singh filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, and we have a special show today focusing on New Year's resolutions and various experts in studio throughout the day to help you guide you on your New Year's resolutions, whether it be on self-improvement, on health and fitness, or self-improvement as far as a mindfulness arena, fitness and nutrition, and then financial planning later on in the show. And pleased to have in studio the team from Encore's Cayman, Dr. Alexander Bodden, therapist Jason, and Dr. Liesel. Welcome to Talk Today.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year's when it comes.
Well, yeah, we're almost there.
We're almost there. In less than 12 hours, the countdown, you know. Some people are counting down from last week, we were saying. And
I think I've been counting down for the last few months.
See, yeah. Some people are like, no, it's depends on where you at in that mindset, right? If you were, we were talking before the show, if you were more the introverted style, you might be going, no, I kind of enjoying this kind of quiet lockdown period. And
I did quite enjoy quarantine. I'm not going to lie. I was okay with that.
Yeah, we've had a few, and a few people have actually been on the show in the past few weeks with the very similar mindset of, they kind of took a little bit to get adjusted to it, but once they kind of got into the routine, they found a whole new freedom in being at home, which is a way of looking at it. So before we actually get into the mindfulness topic, any interest in sharing your personal New Year's resolutions, if any? Any victims want to step forward?
I feel quite in conflict about New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
I think it's kind of a two-edged sword.
Sure.
I think it's good to have resolutions, but I think people kind of put a lot of pressure on themselves to attain their goals or their resolutions, and then if it doesn't happen, they feel like failures, and that they incorporate that into their identities. And so I'm a little bit cautious in calling them resolutions. I'm very for setting goals, and focusing on things you would like to change. But I've over the years learned, sticking to these absolute regimented resolutions could become problematic.
Okay, so as
I
far
read-
as
so I read
goals
about-
then,
Hmm?
as far as goals then for yourself, you set any goals for
Perhaps
2020?
goals, yes. I read about a lady, I read it actually in the New York Times, about a lady that set her resolutions for 2020, and then she said she wanted to travel more, and then came the travel ban. She said she wanted to socialize more, and then came distancing. She said she wanted to earn more money, and then unfortunately she was retrenched. And this really impacted on her, in terms of her resolutions. So yes, I would rather like to say, let's decide on what you want to focus on in life, and improve that area of your life, but not be too perfectionistic in terms of following a strict regime to only do that. Mm-hmm. Because
Like
life
that, no.
happens.
It
Life
does
happens
happen.
in between.
No,
Yeah.
some degree of flexibility is definitely involved in that.
Yes.
And one of the ones I'll be working on is actually more physical. So I had a baby recently. I think everyone now knows.
Big 2020 for you.
Sorry?
Big 2020.
Yeah, which was a really good thing that came out. Actually, the quarantine was while I was really pregnant, and so I was at home with yoga pants, which was great. So there was actually a lot of really good things that came this year in addition to my baby.
Sure.
But one of the things I thought was cool is that the program I do, like Dr. Liesel was saying, has, it doesn't have to. We shouldn't put so much emphasis on the year. The program I use actually does monthly challenges, and they actually don't start on January 1st because that's so hard. I thought that was the coolest thing, that the January challenge actually starts 3 days in.
Yes.
It's a
And I
great
thought
idea.
that was exactly.
It's a great
and
idea.
so I think a lot of what we'll be talking about today is going to be like the psychological and the mental approaches to approaching
Absolutely, yeah.
goals, not resolutions or revolutions. I think Mr. Sterling likes to call them. But ways of being able to be flexible and adaptable with getting through that. And so it might start on January 3rd instead, and that's okay.
That is okay. I think one of the ideals for this year is that Monday is January 4th, and it's easier to start your goals if you start on a Monday, right? It's so much easier to start on a Monday. So January 4th is the Monday, and I think many people are actually looking at it like the weekend is still part of 2020.
Take a break,
getting through it. It's like the overlap period, that little buffer, and then you step into Monday, and off you start running.
So King's Gym will be packed for 3 weeks starting the 4th.
So this is a very true story. I used to actually work at King Sports Center back in the day. I ran the sports programs at King's for a number of years, and I've been in the gym industry for 20 some odd years. The trick to most gym industries is that they survive because of that rush. If everybody that signed up for a membership in December showed up to the gym throughout the course of the year, you'd never find machine access. You'd never find that. They're kind of reliant upon people going, I'm coming for 6 weeks, and then I'm slowly phasing out come summer, and then the gym buffs come in.
Yeah.
But no, for some of the smaller gyms, it's a little different. But so have you set any goals yourself?
Yeah, certainly. I do kind of approach it the same way as the ladies here. Instead of particular New Year's resolutions, because there's been a lot made and a lot broken, and hard on myself, and the guilt and shame that comes with not being able to be perfect. So I prefer to I like to think of it as baby steps in the right direction, and that I think all of us are in constant change, and I've recognized for myself I'm either self-improving or self-destructing in one way or another, either physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So I'm either doing things that get me away from good health in those areas, or things that move me towards it. So I prefer to be doing some things moving towards it. So this year, I actually feel like my emotional, mental, spiritual domains are pretty good. And I do also want to focus on physical. So I've set some things down, what I call first things first, as Stephen Covey would say, and 3 or 4 things that I want to focus on. I have diabetes, so just monitoring my sugars, keeping a food diary, trying to do a little bit of exercise again, but nothing big. I've really let go of the all or nothing. Before, for me, it had to be like a marathon or nothing. So now I'm kind of okay with whatever, and doing little bits at a time.
When did you actually phase away from the marathon or nothing attitude?
It's a couple of years ago, actually, because I actually did run a marathon. I ran the Cayman Marathon. I came here to visit when I was in Canada in 2015, ran the marathon for Team Diabetes Canada. And after that, I wanted to keep going and do an Ironman. And I love biking, love swimming, but I started getting injuries. And I started going from, being able to put in 20 hours a week training to very little. And then it was nothing. And then I actually saw a sports coach, and he helped me with that in terms of a little bit like on that mentality, that all or nothing mentality that I had. You know, it really is everything or nothing for me. So I had to really start being okay with, you know, first thing was it's okay to walk. You don't have to run, you know, just being okay. Like, cause I'd rather do nothing than unless I'm sweating up and, you know, burning it up. Right. But I had to really focus on accepting myself and my limitations and doing what I could.
You know, it's interesting, the connection between what you experienced and Dr. Liesel, why you mentioned the goals versus the resolutions mindset. Because when we look at the fitness element from the personal training and the gym side of the business, the number one reason why people fail is they come in with that all or nothing attitude, go from day one instead of incrementally kind of working their way to, and looking at it from a lifestyle approach versus just, this is a goal, I want to lose 30 pounds, I'm going to do it all on day one. And then come day 3, they go boom, they mentally just kind of snap. It's not. It doesn't have a sustainable model to it. There's that concept of the incremental gains and what they call marginal gains, and that 1% improvement every day adds
and that's
up.
the same with mental and emotional health too. Same concepts can be applied.
It's a tough one. I look at it I can see from the fitness side, right? But I look at it from your arena. I kind of look at it, my head still goes into that all or nothing kind of mindset. And it's just because I'm not in your arena.
It's a very human tendency.
It is.
So
Why?
not to worry.
What drives that human tendency? Do we
That's
know?
what we call a cognitive distortion.
Cognitive distortion.
Yeah, but it's a distortion in your thinking, and it's a very common one. It's one we call black or white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. And so that's one of the things that we do when we're working with people, is to help people recognize that tendency, and then work on mediating it. So rather than getting this very narrow tunnel vision, work on kind of expanding it and getting the bigger picture of what's going on. So missing one day is not that you failed, it's that you're sore because you worked so hard the last 2 days, and recovery is important too. That's what we call cognitive restructuring.
And that's cognitive restructuring.
Yes.
All right.
Changing the thoughts.
Yes, just changing your thoughts and just kind of getting the flip side of the story as well. Like you mentioned, losing 30 pounds or 30 kilograms. You know, instead of thinking, I have to lose 30 kilograms, you can think of, I have to lose 1 kilogram 30 times.
Sure, no, that's where we break down.
So you break it down into smaller units, and then it's much more manageable. And it doesn't have to happen in January. You can lose 1 kilogram 30 times in the course of 2021. Doesn't all have to happen in January.
Or even better, I want to lose 30 pounds instead of I have to lose 30
pounds. Yes.
Then the throat. Then my foot's not on my throat.
No, absolutely. It's funny how it's not funny. It's just I love how you changed how the perspective normally is on that black and white thinking, because like I said, like I've never dissected it from the mental element, and I've always done it from the physical side, and I think it's easier to look at it from the physical. It's tangible, right? I can look at it from a tangible side when I'm looking at food portions, how to slowly knock off food or change, keeping a food diary, but on the mental side, it's all happening between the ears. And
I'd say that's a lot of what drives the behaviors as well. So
absolutely.
Changing the behaviors will change the thoughts. If you're able to use portion control, and then that helps you to lose weight, that will affect your thinking as well.
Sure.
But likewise, if you're able to change the thinking, sometimes that allows people to make and maintain the changes more easily, and have them to be more successful as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have to go to a commercial break. When we come back, I wouldn't mind continuing this element, looking at it from the motivation standpoint, and how we keep our motivation going when we're taking the breaks. And we'll be back with more talk today right after this.
CUC is going virtual. We have the same awesome team ready to provide you with excellent service.
We managed to implement technology right before the lockdown that allowed our reps to work from home and still deliver that exact same level of service.
Our priority will always be to provide our customers with the high quality of service to which you've grown accustomed. Visit our website at www.cuc-cayman.com or reach out to us at service@cuc.ky. We are here to serve you.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
This New Year's Eve, come out to South Coast Bar and Grill in Breakers for Breakers Under the Stars. Kick out the old year and bring in the new year with an all all-inclusive 3-course dinner with Prosecco for $75. General admission for $25. And with all-inclusive Prosecco, only $50. Music by Impulse Band, Rex, Lammy, and your favorite DJs. Come out, dine and dance the new year in with style at the South Coast Bar and Grill in Breakers this all year night. Tickets on sale now at South Coast Bar and Grill, Mango Trees Outside Bar, and Funky Tanks.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, and very pleased to have in studio the team from Encore's Cayman, Dr. Alexandra Podden, Jason A. Therapist, and Dr. Liesel, here discussing New Year's resolutions and how you can help, or New Year's goals potentially, if you want to choose your own goals here, and how you can go about achieving it in a sustainable manner. Now, before the break, we were briefly discussing about that black and white way of thinking, cognitive distortion.
Yep.
And
you're good.
I wrote it down. I'm a good note taker. And how we can restructure cognitive restructuring.
Yes.
And kind of change the way we look at that black and white thinking, which is so normal to us. Approaching it, typically we tend to approach New Year's resolutions, whether it's getting in better shape, becoming more social, or whatever your dreams and goals are. We tend to look at it has to happen on day one of the year, instead of looking at it like it's a journey and you're just on step one of the year from day one.
Exactly.
But when it comes to the motivation, like there's that initial like high and that motivation of I'm going to get it done. You're getting your clothes ready, you're buying the gym shoes, you're getting your Tupperware container so you can food prep and all that, all the areas you've done to prepare, and then all of a sudden you get into it and you start losing that drive, that motivation, whether it's you're sore or whether it's you're trying to quit smoking and you're going through some serious withdrawal symptoms or whatever it might be that
you have to work late, so you miss the gym.
You see work late. Life happens, like as you mentioned, and that flexibility doesn't apply to your thinking on December 31st, and all of a sudden you start losing the motivation. Any comments or thoughts on?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in first. One of the very first things that I guess I worked on with myself and then I start working on with clients is being easier on ourselves, having a more accepting attitude towards ourselves, because when a lot of that all or nothing, the nothing oftentimes comes from a thought that I failed, I must give up, that kind of stuff. And really I would like to challenge people to look at what's important to them. So if health is important to me, physical health or fitness, it doesn't really matter if I hit my 5 or 6 times at the gym this week or not. But if I slip up a week and I identify that this is still important to me, it becomes a whole lot easier each time. Like if I go to the grocery store, decide not to go to the gym, and I'm picking out ice cream instead of broccoli, it's probably coming from a place of giving up and being hard on myself and, I can't do this kind of thing, kind of the thoughts that come with that and taking those thoughts seriously. But if each time I can keep coming back to, you know what, this is important for me. I do want to live a long life. I want to live a healthy life. Then, whatever happened yesterday or even today, the next decision I can make can be a step towards that value of healthiness. So it's just a much more freeing approach. I even challenge people to stop with the shoulds. I should be going to the gym 5 times. I should be exercising more. I should be, as soon as I start saying I should be doing this, then I'm judging myself as not acceptable the way I am right now. And I vision a foot on my throat and saying I should be different than I am now. I got to be different. It's like, no, I could be doing some stuff better. Now I'm free to make the choices.
I think it also comes down to it being a process. It's not a task. 2021 and resolutions shouldn't be a task that needs to be done in January. It's a process. So I could be doing this and this in January, I could be taking the following task in February, the following task in March, and every kind of plan for every month to progressively get there, not wanting to do everything at once. It's not one task, it's a process that builds up and that runs a course.
Is that something that, for those who are looking to tackle their goals for the year, where a coach or potentially a therapist could assist with that, of working out a plan?
Yes, definitely.
For sure.
Definitely, because you also include in working out a plan, you look at prioritizing. What are the priorities? What needs to happen first? What's step one before you can get to step two? There's also things like time management. How are you going to fit in this regiment or this gym plan that you have? How are you going to fit it in? How many times can you actually realistically get to gym? You know, how many times can you realistically go for a walk on the beach? So, and then planning it as part of a process and not something that needs to happen at once.
And accountability too.
That's what I was going to say.
You know, like I know a lot of people, even including myself, you know, I would go back to see a doctor or counselor on a regular basis because I want that accountability. You know, I need to be accountable to someone so that I'm always kind of progressing. Like there's a, you know, and some people have told me, you know, no, I don't want to stop counseling because I need to be accountable. Like I need somebody to say that I'm, you know, even if I slip back, you know, that I'm not going to go all the way back, you know, that I can pick up, dust myself off, and keep moving forward.
Well, and I'd say support as well.
Yes.
You know, we definitely are about figuring out what's working. You know, and if something's not working, if the last 3 years your resolution's been to go to the gym every day and it's not happened, you know, maybe the gym's not for you. So we can help you to think through different ideas, you know, and find something that's going to work for you. And we try things, and sometimes it will work, sometimes it doesn't. And then you adjust as you go. I think that's the biggest part, is checking in with what's working, what's not working as well as we'd like, and what can we do differently.
See, it's actually that it almost requires someone to be able to manage disappointment and failure at some point.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things.
Letting go of some of those things. You may not be a gym
Absolutely.
rat, and that might be okay.
Yeah, no, it's like in sales, a lot of people don't tend to like sales because they don't like the rejection element of it. They don't like being told no 99 times before they hear the yes, right? And just like any journey, no one likes to fall 99 times before they hit that one big win. Hence why most don't get started. Because it's so easy to say, I'd rather just sit in the safe seat and not take those 99 steps forward.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to offend anyone who does like the gym. I definitely respect you. It was not my thing. You know, and I do lots of other activities which I really enjoy, which has also made me a believer in that you can do it. Like I do aerial fitness, which I love, which is
like
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah,
we do it at a little studio out here at Quintessential, and I love it. And that's something I never thought you could do. But I have been stronger than I've ever been.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I definitely believe in thinking outside the box and finding something fun. You know, which is, you know, some people think, oh, I could never do that, especially something like that. So many people have said that since I've started that. And I was like, try it. You know, and maybe you think it may not. I tell people, when you try things, either you find something you enjoy and maybe that becomes an option. So if you're working out, we'll have 3 or 4 options. Or at least hopefully you'll get a good story. If you do aerial, you get some good pictures.
And some good stories.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly.
So we brought up the accountability factor. There's looking at a coach or a therapist as one accountability is looking at the buddy system a lot of time becomes the gym element. But when it comes to the accountability factor versus also one of the concerns I've always seen with New Year's resolutions or goals or any kind of major project is people tend to compare themselves to others. One of the biggest reasons why people tend to quit the gym so early on is because they go into the gym, they see so many other people that are in quote unquote better shape than they are, more physically fit than they are, and it's intimidating. And so they compare themselves to them, and that personal self-judgment element kind of takes over and overrides all their processing, and off it goes. And it happens in so many different arenas, not only in the gym. It happens in most things that people try new. How do you wrestle between the accountability, which requires another person to kind of step in and be that accountability person for you, and wrestling with the self-judgment when it comes to trying anything new or trying to change habits or reevaluate?
I think a lot of us have anxiety with new things and change and getting out of your comfort zone, like you said, like you're in that safe place, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of what we, I guess, need to learn or want to learn as human beings is that courage isn't necessarily the lack of fear. It's having the fear and doing it anyway. I remember going in to do a presentation in front of a whole school, 500 people, and it had been maybe my 500th presentation. But right before I went in, I texted my colleague and said, "Do you still get anxiety before every presentation?" I said, "Yep, everyone." And that's all I needed to hear. And I walked in there and did it anyway. And it was a presentation on anxiety, so I got to use myself as an example, right? But walking in the running room, the very first time I did that, I was 50 pounds overweight. I didn't have the gear. I had a pair of running shoes. I didn't have the right material shorts and t-shirt and I felt so unworthy, so less than, right? But they were such a welcoming community, and I joined right in and loved running as a group, loved that group accountability. That's how I got to run a marathon. So a lot of times it's managing those emotions and thoughts, not necessarily attaching to those and letting them control us. One of my mentors says, "I don't care how you feel, do it anyway." Because a lot of times we want to feel it to do it. If I wait to feel like going to work, I may never show up. But once I get there, I'm okay.
Absolutely. Joe Rogan has that exact same line that he uses a lot of times. It's like if he only worked out whenever he felt like going to the gym, he'd never go to the gym.
Right.
The reality is,
and I tell people the days you really don't want to go are the days you should go.
That's the days
or
you
the
should.
days that would be most helpful.
Absolutely. That's the day that feels the best.
Yeah.
Because you overcame that massive hurdle that was holding you back. And that's that big step. So out of curiosity, when it comes to the giving the speech and the anxiety, do you have a system that you use to kind of ground yourself beforehand?
Just knowing that I'm going to have it. Preparation is the key to managing that usually for me. Actually, Dr. Liesel asked if I had anything prepared or written down for today's talk. I said, no, I'm good on that. But normally I would, because if I prepare, I'm less anxious and I'm less stressed.
Sure.
And I always have two little rituals that I need to check my teeth, make sure nothing's in there, and need to check my zipper to make sure it's up. Other than that, I'll be very self-conscious that something's there and people are laughing at me, not with me.
Interesting. Do you have any prep techniques that you use? I'm assuming the zipper's not one, but is the teeth one of them?
Some grounding techniques, grounding, like even if you're sitting here, you can just put your feet on the floor, make sure you feel stable, just kind of feel where you are.
Absolutely.
Listen to what's happening, identify 5 objects in the room. That's kind of grounding, and just take your attention from everything outside and bring it in and just be with you, That is a technique I like to use. I also really like deep breathing exercises and progressive muscle relaxation.
Progressive muscle relaxation?
Yes. So that just is basically you contracting your muscles and letting them go. And then you kind of scan your body. So you start with your feet, contract your muscles, let go, move up, until you get to your face, contract your facial muscles, let them go. And while your muscles are tense, you're just breathing calmly. So that means even though there's tension in your body, you can still manage your breathing. Sure. So that's one of the things that I would use.
Is that what you use for managing like the stress and anxiety, or just to relax yourself in general?
Well, you use that for stress and anxiety, but it becomes eventually like a kind of a pattern in life.
Sure.
It's kind of something I want to do every day. The same as meditation. The more you do it, the more it becomes a part of who you are, and then eventually you can just you kind of have a technique just to put your hand on your stomach. Make sure you're breathing, and then you can become calm. So the more you do it, the more it becomes part of your frame of reference and your way of relation to the world.
Nice. And we've actually had this conversation before about the grounding, because you used to mention 3 objects you can see, 3 things you can hear.
Yep.
There was a third one.
And 3 things you can feel.
You can feel.
Yes.
I normally start with 5 though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so those are grounding techniques as well. And I love the deep breathing as well. I do one called 4-4-8, where you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 8 counts.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll see me doing that if I've got a presentation that I'm going to do as well.
All right. So we have breathing, teeth and zippers.
So practical.
I take my good notes. I did write that down. On that note, let's go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll be wrapping up our conversation on... We're getting around to the conversation on more mindfulness techniques and how we can actually stay grounded throughout the rest of 2021. Back with more talk today, right after this.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
2021 is almost here, but first there's Christmas. Have you thought about a gift for you? Why not give yourself the gift of learning? Explore new opportunities to grow both professionally and personally. Skills for Life can help. Skills for Life is a government initiative that highlights various training and learning opportunities available for Caymanians to retool, upskill, advance, and access what you need to succeed in the workplace. Want more information? Visit our website, gov.ky/skills for life today.
We give you honor and praise, adoration and glory.
Radio Cable.
Praise time.
Praise him, praise him. Come and let's praise the Lord. Come and let's praise the Lord. Praise him in the morning and in the evening. Oh, let's praise the Lord.
Praise time in the morning.
Praise him, praise him.
Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
Radio Cayman, waking you up.
Rock my soul in the blues of my faith in your hand. Rock my soul in the blues of my faith in your hand.
Praise time.
I know he cares. He'll always be there. Oh, yeah. Praise him, praise him, praise him.
Praise time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And in studio, we have the team from Encore's Cayman, Dr. Alexandra Bodden, Mr. Jason Jones, and Dr. Liesl Angelova. Thank you again for coming in. And again, this whole session's about helping us kind of navigate the New Year's goals / resolutions, however you want to phrase it. Many of us do set targets for the following year that we want to achieve. Some do it on a monthly basis, some do it on an annual basis. This whole session is really just about how to get in touch with yourself to really help you achieve that New Year's resolution. Dr. Bodden, you've written an article on achieving one's goals. Would you mind just running through that list of elements on that list?
Yeah, no problem. So it's one I actually did with Miss Heather Lockhart, and so we'd written it for an article for UCCI, and a lot of it incorporates what we've been talking about here, and it is on drbodden.com. So I'm happy to send that over to you. The first part is going to be looking at the bigger picture. Mr. Jason talked about this earlier, talking about kind of like the why, right? What is the purpose of going to the gym each day? What are you trying to achieve long term? If it is to be healthy, does it have to be the gym? You know, what is the purpose of the goals that you're setting? And that can often be helpful to get the bigger picture of what's going on, and that can help that thinking outside the box. Like I said, there's other ways of meeting those goals as well. Breaking it down, he talks about the baby steps. So if the goal is to be healthy, what does that mean? What's that going to look like? What are the behaviors what do you want to be able to do to consider that healthy? And what are the steps they need to be able to do to get there? So people often talk to me like, well, you have your doctorate, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how you get there, right? I told everyone I graduated every 2 years for 10 years because I couldn't commit to more than 2 years at a time. So, and you sign up for your first course, and it might be a certificate, it might be an associate's, it might be a bachelor's, and the first step is going to class, doing the reading. So breaking it down. Making sure that you're celebrating progress as you go. So as you, graduating every 2 years is a pretty great celebration. I have robes from everywhere. But it's going to be celebrating the progress that if you do make it to the gym those 3 times, if you do go for the beach walk, if you do take time to practice your mindfulness, your meditation, if you do make a family night and spend more time with the ones at home, making sure that you do something to reward yourself as well. Obviously, if you're spending time or doing something enjoyable, this is where the mindfulness would come in as well, to make sure that you are mindfully being there and being present in that moment. Being realistic, so making sure that whatever you sign up for is going to be something you can do. The gym 3 hours every day is not going to be realistic for most people it's not realistic, but especially if you're working. So figuring out what's going to work for you, if it's going to be, 30 minutes twice a week, or I have heard a term called exercise snacking. So if it's going to be maybe 10 minutes of yoga in the morning and a 10-minute walk in the evening, that's an option as well. So being realistic with it. Have a deadline. We talked about accountability. So having a time where you're going to reassess things, right? Is the gym working? Is it not? Are the salads every day working? Or are they not? Are there other ways that we could be doing this to get better results? So the deadline helps us to make sure we get it done and try it, but then also gives us a point to pause and reflect and make adjustments if necessary. Telling a friend, we talked about the buddy system, and so that can be helpful because if we tell someone else about it, it often will help us, especially if they're going to be coming working out with us, it can help us to stay motivated for the in-between times and the shorter-term check-ins and having support as well. A lot of people find it enjoyable to have someone else there. I also tell clients, I don't like working out with other people. I prefer to go by myself, so that's where you got to figure out what works for you. Keeping it positive. The human brain works better in the positive than the negative. So it's going to be going to do something, not do something. I tell people if your goal is, for me, was don't eat French fries, you then focus on French fries. So it's going to be things like eating more vegetables or having the rainbow plates, one I like, where you have meat in different colors of foods to make sure you're getting all the different food groups. Sure. So framing things in the positive. This also works with kids as well. You tell kids, please walk, not don't run. So putting it in the positive, and making sure that you're rewarding yourself as you go as well, that you're acknowledging progress. I think Ms. Jason talked about, even if we do have a day where we feel like we've messed up or fallen off the bandwagon, looking back at where we were before and where we are now. And that's where I do like having different ways of telling if you're on the right track or not. Right? That's why I actually don't like weight, because I think it's very fixed and there's so many other factors that go into it. No, so like what I started looking at personally was what my body can do, as opposed to what the scale says. Because things like if you a big meal or water or hormones, all these things can affect your weight. The weight is just a number. So having other ways of seeing what we're doing and measuring progress, whether it's how we look, it's an outfit that we want to get into, or if it's being able to run a marathon. For me, it was an inversion in the silks. So it's whatever you want to be able to do.
Did you actually do the inversion?
I did. I got it. Yes.
Is it on video?
I had a picture.
Okay.
But that was pre-baby, so that's not happening right now. But it's now my goal again.
There you go. You can recycle that. That's the good thing about goals. It can be recycled.
I got it 3 times.
Have you? That's great. That's a huge. I can't do it.
It's a lot to hang with you. You have to hold your whole body weight and then get your body upside down. It was a lot.
It is, and not fall.
Yes. We have crash mats just in case, but focusing on what your body can do is a much different way of looking at things, and I really appreciated that because I think it's obviously an art form and really pretty as well.
Sure.
So,
we do have one call in line. We're going to go in 1 second. One of the things that we do have one caller saying that is the Jerry Seinfeld actually had was actually asked one time how he got so good at telling jokes, and because he, like anybody that started anything new when he was a comedian, he was funny, but he didn't have all the jokes lined up. And so one of his things that he had told and mentored to young comedians was he kept a calendar, and every day, like one of those big wall calendars that showed that whole year, and every day he would write down one joke, and no matter what, his goal was to put an X on the calendar so you could physically see what he was doing every single day. And his reality was, you're not going to get every day. You're going to make a mistake. But the reality was, don't miss 2 days and don't miss 2 X's in a row. So you could physically and visually see the calendar. So no matter what happened, even if you had a bad day or a bad week and you missed that one day, as long as there wasn't 2 gaps on the calendar in a row, he was able to keep on going. That's what he used, whether it's used it as 2 gaps or 3 gaps. But you mentioned just kind of reframing how we look at it and finding new ways to measure that goal. It doesn't have to be the scale. It can be the calendar in front of you or the dress that you want to wear. Or, but on that note, we do have one caller we do have to take. Yes.
I would say that there's a lot of apps as well that are really helpful for
Sure.
that. That will look at not only daily but weekly and monthly goals as well, which I found really helpful. So,
I like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of apps available for all the different areas that we've talked about.
That's great. Okay, let's take our one caller before our 1 p.m. headline news. Good afternoon, caller. Thank you for calling Talk Today. If I could ask you to keep it very brief, we do have to go to our 1 p.m. headline news in just a few minutes.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, caller.
Yes, we've been speaking around here. I won't come through before the exit, right? 11,000 seems to go, right? And what we're about now, in person, if the first new year come in, I dissect and analyze everything, right? How to perceive, lack of awareness. What we call about today, 1 minute now. Typical Cayman now. A lot of road courtesy, okay? Appreciation of road courtesy. No road rage. That's appreciation of road courtesy.
So you're talking about the courtesy for drivers on the road.
Drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, everybody.
That's a great. That'd be a great community resolution, caller. You're absolutely right.
So, up in the air, about came on. My family in the Brock. So the family came on. Up in the air, about it. Happy New Year to really came on. Respect.
Thank you, sir, and a very happy New Year to you. And thank you for that. As you know, it's a great New Year's resolution for our entire community. To look at it from we just had an overturned truck yesterday on a roundabout that's become extremely dangerous of late. So to put the pylons out there. And you're absolutely right. We could definitely be with more courteous on the roads and
Kinder to ourselves and kinder to others.
Absolutely.
I agree. You never know what someone's going through.
That was one of my first acts of being mindful, actually, because I was addicted to my cell phone. So I really, when I started trying to be mindful, it was check my texts and phones and stuff, and I'm in the parking lot before I start moving the car, and then silence it and put it down and be mindful of my driving. Because I was just getting a little too careless and realizing how quick something could happen.
Sure.
And that was my first thing, that I'm going to be mindful when I'm driving.
I like that. I really do like that. I keep my phone on silent, even though I'm in sales and I always keep my phone on silent for that very reason. I just don't want anything I'm doing to actually interfere with what I'm doing at that moment. And usually the phone's going to be what will interrupt whatever I'm doing at any given moment.
For everyone.
For everyone. Yeah, the phone's become such a commonplace.
That's a big one that we often practice with people is unplugging. So.
Yeah, I know it is. Earlier during the last break, I briefly brought up the alarm clock. So many New Year's resolutions are dependent on time management and being able to manage your time. And sometimes that does mean getting up earlier in order to accomplish more in whatever time we have throughout our day. Tips or tricks for people to avoid hitting the snooze button?
Well, as we said, putting the alarm clock far, so you actually have to get up to switch it off. You could also have a multi variant of alarms in the room, so you have to kind of walk around and kill 3 of them.
And not get killed by your spouse in the process
yes.
of having 3 alarms go off at different times.
Yeah, and it's also being prepared, being organized. If you're a morning person and you can organize all your stuff in the morning, you're more creative and better in the morning. Leave the organization for the morning. But if you're better a night person, organize all your stuff at night, so that when the alarm goes off, that you really have to, get up and but you're prepared. You're already prepared. So there's not a mountain of things that you need to do when the alarm goes off.
That's great.
I've even had friends sleep in their clothes, in their running clothes.
Yeah.
So you do what you got to do.
No, absolutely. I've heard of. There was actually an alarm clock that was made that you could throw this thing. The only way to shut it off, you had to almost break the thing. So you couldn't just slap a snooze button. You had to almost physically adjust this clock. Another one quick one I do remember is never use one of your favorite songs as your alarm clock. We think that we will wake up to this happy music. Yes. You wind up hating your favorite songs within a very short period of time. So
I love my Fitbit. It vibrates and it wakes up. And then it's also one of the ones I use for tracking steps, tracking calories, tracking everything. Yeah. So
thank you so much. Make it fun.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been the time flies whenever we have you all in the studio. And all the best for 2021 with your
Goals.
Yes, thank you. You too.
Thank you. On that note, we're going to go to our 1 p.m. headline news.
Thank you.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Travel Cayman officials say a traveler who breached quarantine after attending a Day 15 PCR test site has been warned for intended prosecution. Rather than returning directly home to receive their results, Travel Cayman officials say the traveler stopped at a number of public places on the way home. This was in contravention of an agreement all returning travelers must sign with Travel Cayman. Meanwhile, health officials note that a person can test positive at their Day 15 test following a negative result on entry, and as such still able to transmit the virus. It has since been determined that the traveler did not pose a public health risk at the time of the breach. Turning to international news now, restrictions are being placed on New Year festivities around the world as many countries struggle to curb new spikes in coronavirus cases. Fireworks displays and other public gatherings have been cancelled from Sydney to New York. Festivities are being particularly muted in Europe amid fears over a new, more contagious strain of the disease. More than 1.8 million people have died with the virus across the world since the start of the pandemic a year ago. More than 81 million cases have been reported. China authorized its first homegrown COVID-19 vaccine for general use Thursday, adding another shot that could see wide use in poorer countries as the virus surges back around the globe. The Sinopharm vaccine had already been given to groups such as healthcare professionals and essential workers under emergency use guidelines as part of China's program to inoculate 50 million people before the Lunar New Year holiday in February. But the go-ahead should allow it to be supplied more broadly at home and moves Beijing closer to being able to ship it abroad. Those are your latest headlines here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
Do you have a passion for cake decorating or doing vegetable carvings? Register now to UCCI's Continuing Education Food Courses. In 10 weeks, students will learn how to bake and acquire various techniques in icing decoration or to turn fruits and vegetables into beautiful garnishes. Classes start on January 18th.
Register now on our website at connect.ucci.edu.ky/register/short courses.
Or visit us from January 6th to the 12th for face-to-face registration.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And again, a very happy New Year's Eve to all of our listeners. With the countdown going now, less than 11 hours until 2021. And now very pleased to have in studio Mr. Andre Morgan of Train with Dre. This is our special show talking about New Year's resolutions. So if you were tuned in for the last segment, we're talking about just how we can reevaluate how we look at resolutions, whether we tackle them as goals, and breaking down whatever that goal might be into more manageable steps and being flexible with how we approach it from a very mindful manner. And now, one of the most common resolutions or goals that people do tend to make for the new year tend to be around fitness and nutrition. It's just a common thread, whether it's to be more active, whether it's to lose a certain amount of weight, whether it's to just eat healthier and just be overall holistically healthier, which is usually the goal that we tend to want to strive towards. But we do have one of our resident professionals from Train with Dre, Andre Morgan. Good afternoon, Andre, and welcome back to Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Ray, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we had you on the show for Sports Extra.
Yeah.
About a year ago, maybe a little longer, talking about this very same topic, but how we could actually really tackle nutrition and our resolutions.
It was over a year ago, and yeah, it was about resolutions and fitness. Yeah. So,
has anything changed in the world of fitness and nutrition since then?
COVID.
I'm sure that's got to be a big one for many people.
Yeah, it changed the environment completely, and besides people putting on weight, it's modified workout styles and the avenues to which we provide programs for clients.
As far as facilities, you mean? Being like it's not as...
Well, here in Cayman, I guess things are back to normal. Sure. So it's not as bad here anymore. But for instance, when the lockdown had just passed, when we started to do some of what was it called again? We call the lockdowns a specific thing, the suppressions. So when we started to release some of them, and you could get to the gym, you could only have X amount of people.
Sure,
in the
special levels when they change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by the change. So even as a trainer in the gym or in certain gyms and certain facilities, you'd have to operate with the required distance.
Sure.
There was even the whole controversy of should clients and members of gyms train with mask on. So, and from a trainer's perspective, that's a big no, because no, you can't have a mask on when you're training. Well, unless it's a mask that changes the altitude, because you have those special masks that does that. But I mean, even on a general health and fitness level, that's not what you need, right? So that's what I mean by the changes. So there was a lot of different applications being employed because of COVID, and now that we're back to normal, some people got really comfortable with being able to, one, train at home, which was a different application, or two, got really comfortable that when they got to the gym, instead of having a gym with 50 people, they have a gym with 15 or 20 people. So yeah, that's what I mean.
All right, so the industry's changed a bit, and definitely many industries have seen the changes from COVID, and the fitness industry no different. When we start looking at it from the goals and resolutions standpoint now, with so many people that are trying to achieve various fitness levels, one of the things that's always a challenging area is getting started.
Yeah.
And that could be either getting started on your routine or getting started on the day. Getting into the mindset for that workout. It's really easy to get into the mindset for a New Year's resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very easy.
Very easy to tell yourself, oh, I'm going to do this next year.
Absolutely.
Next year's tomorrow, I'm going to start on Monday.
Exactly. And then tomorrow, Monday comes, and we were just talking about the alarm clock just now in the last segment.
Yeah.
And big snooze button goes off on the alarm clock, and I missed the first day or I missed the second day. And so getting started, whether it be on the resolution part or on the day part. Let's start with the day part. From your standpoint as a trainer, any tips and tricks for how people can actually get started each day? Like, what are the tricks that you as a trainer would coach someone on getting started every day?
Well, you mentioned something at some point, either it was in the earlier segment or when we sat down, and you said mindfulness. So mindfulness is one of the easiest tricks to employ when you're trying to get into fitness. And how you do that is that you begin by understanding what it takes or what is needed from you, the individual, to get to your goal. So I think I was overhearing some of what was happening, and I heard one of the young ladies say that she had a friend that sleeps in their running clothes, so that when she wakes up in the morning, it's, okay, I'm just going to go and do it.
Off you go.
Simple things like that. So your objective on the first day, if you are going to start on the first day or you're going to start on a specific date, your objective on that date is to set a goal or set a measure or put something in place that you have to do. and then you're going to stick to it.
Put something in place that you have to do.
That you have to do.
What do you mean have to do? Like, I have to get up and go to the bathroom in the morning kind of thing?
No, that's
like,
normal. So
work around that have to?
Let's use that.
Mean?
So let's use that. So let's say you're not very motivated, and every year you keep telling yourself you're gonna start on the first day of the year, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. Then what you can do is and being accountable. So what you can do is you say, okay, cool. On the first is gonna be Friday. So on Friday morning when I get up to use the bathroom for the first time, I'm going to do 15 squats.
Okay.
And you get up and you get to the bathroom, and when you sit and you pee and you get back up, well, I'm assuming it's a female, you get back up and you do your 15 squats. And it may seem like a very small accomplishment, but if you now set a plan based on that to say, okay, today I did 15, tomorrow I'm going to do 20. And then you keep setting new goals, new things new small steps to achieve the results you want. Then in no time, after a week or two, you're gonna realize you've accomplished more than you accomplished last year. And then that in itself can be that motivation to say, all right, cool, I did this, I'm here. Let's not stop. Let's go every weekend. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna walk a mile or jog a mile. And then after you do that for a couple of weeks, you add something else, and you keep adding and modifying the steps to achieve the goal, and that's pretty much it.
You know, when you say it like that, it comes across very easy. It's very tangible.
I do it for a living.
Of course, but you also do it for a living, right? Many of our listeners, and while I've been involved in all this, many of our listeners may not be familiar. So when they look at it from that standpoint,
yeah,
it kind of sounds okay, great, until Friday morning, when the first squat has to happen. And then it's that groaning kind of. Now we talked about in the last segment of you just got to power through that mental hurdle.
Yes.
You just have to imagine you're Mike Tyson, and what is actually going on is you're fighting that virtual version of yourself.
Yeah.
You need to knock it out cold and do that squat.
You know what else? It's I'm gonna sell myself a little bit, but it's the reality of it. It's why you have a coach or a trainer. Mike Tyson has a coach or a trainer. And Mike Tyson's coach or trainer holds him accountable. So if Mike is supposed to get up and do 1,000 jumping jacks, and the coach gets to the gym at 3:00 and he's like, Mike, you did your jumping jacks? No. Mike, let's go. Get to your jumping jacks. And that accountability as well motivates, again, because one, maybe you don't want to have to tell your coach that, no, I didn't do it. Or two, the fact that your coach is going to come and ask you, now you have to do it. Either which way, you got to get it done. That's it.
That's it. You have to get it done.
That's it.
But it's very easy to make the excuse, right? We see some people we see some people who start on the process and then they kind of fall off that way. They just don't stick with it. That's where I guess the accountability factor is coming in. If you have someone that's going to hold you physically, mentally accountable, even emotionally accountable at times.
And also being realistic with yourself, being real with yourself. So let's say, for instance, both of us decide we're going to set some resolutions. And we both decide we're going to put on 6 pounds of muscles. That's our resolution. It's completely different from everyone else's, right? Everybody's trying to lose it, but we decide we're going to put on 6 pounds of muscle. That means we're trying to either A, see the scale go up, or B, see our body fat adjust, right? Now, when we say we're going to put on 6 pounds of muscle, it will be easier for me to put on 6 pounds of muscle than it would be for you. So I could probably get that done in 2.5, 3 weeks. 2.5, 3 weeks of consistency and dedication. I'll put on 6 pounds of muscle.
I've been trying for 30 years.
Exactly. Exactly. So now, if you decide that you're going to set your New Year's resolution to put on 6 pounds of muscle, and you're short-sighted and you're going to do that in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, that wouldn't be reality for you.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because during the last segment, one of the elements you brought up was how do we wrestle with holding ourselves accountable with a peer and not judging ourselves on the same standard as the peer. It's a lot of times we tend to measure, you go to the gym, or that person's working out and they're in so much better shape than I am. We get intimidated, or we go work out with someone, they're seeing results faster than I'm seeing results, and we feel like we're a failure in the process of it. When the reality is, you're not looking at, you're on two completely different journeys, two different paths.
Yeah.
You're just kind of walking the same direction.
You're not assessing it correctly. So you're not assessing what you're doing correctly. So you expect that now, oh, well, Dre just put on the 6 pounds in 6 weeks, and here I am 8 weeks in, and I think I have a pound on.
Yeah.
And it again, that comes to knowing yourself and, again, being realistic. So then you go, okay, Ray, last year, 8 weeks into the new year, did you have a pound of muscles on? No, I didn't. So pat yourself on the back. Give yourself a round of applause. Be grateful. This year's about a lot of gratitude. We went through a lot.
Correct, yeah.
So be grateful that last year you didn't accomplish it, but already 8 weeks into the year, you're a step further than you were last year. That's really it. And again, I heard them talk about a buddy system or having somebody to, and that all of that works, because if you take away being judgmental and deciding that, okay, I'm not going to judge myself or compare myself to the person beside me, but I'm going to compare myself to who I was last year and what I did last year. It's all about you. So when you compare it, when you sit and you look at the facts and you look at where you are, you go, I am a little further. And the key thing to know is a small step forward is still a step forward. So if you only make it an inch further than you were yesterday and make it an inch the next day, then you're 2 inches. Keep making those small steps.
That's actually one of the areas we talked about last night. You're absolutely right. Instead of measuring yourself based on where you're at compared to the overall goal, measure yourself compared to where you were yesterday.
Yes.
And if you're a step ahead than where you were yesterday, that's called progress.
It is progress.
You don't have to look at it from the standpoint. And it's very daunting. You start looking at a very big goal. You want to write a whole book. You don't write a whole book in one day. You write a page a day.
Yep.
And
Or
if you
a
do
paragraph.
Or a paragraph. And if you do it that way, even if it's one word, whatever it is, over the course of a year, those 365 paragraphs or 365 pages, and there you have a book. And ask authors, and they'll tell you the same thing. They don't sit down and write for 8 hours a day. They'll sit down and they try to write a goal of a certain volume of pages per day. That's their goal.
And that's you being realistic. That's you.
Yeah, based on their time, based on their skills, based on...
There's a quote that comes to mind. I like quotes. So there's a quote that comes to mind that says, a journey of 1,000 miles start with a single step.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And me, it's I don't want to say weird, but it's ironic. You hear all these quotes and you hear all these things and you're like, that's just rubbish. That doesn't work that way. That makes no sense. But when you start applying them and using them to help motivate and get you a step ahead, you realize, wow, this is gold. The inches of progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
The journey of 1,000 miles start with one step.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. So we've got the mental element kind of tackled here as far as getting started. How do we manage excuses? There's so many times when it comes to fitness elements, and excuses might be a very harsh word on this one, but we tend to come up with the reasons why we hit the snooze button. We have the donut. We had the bad day, so we're going to have the drink to relax. It was very easy in the moment to find reasons not to stick to that game plan from your trainer coaching hat. How do you wrestle with that with clients? There is that personal accountability. Yes, you say to them, you have to take responsibility for your actions. But you as the coach and trainer, what are the tricks that you teach your students? Can I call them students? Trainees?
Clients.
Clients.
Yeah, I call them clients.
That you would teach your clients or recommend your clients to employ when it comes to managing ease.
I'm trying to not be the harsh trainer, Dre.
I think a harsh actually is okay here. I think this is one where it requires a bit of harshness.
It does, but then it also depends on the individual.
Sure.
So because I'm speaking to the mass, so I don't know who I'm talking to. So I might be talking to the sensitive person that if I come down on them hard about, look, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time, cut it out. Then I don't see them for a week. And they're like, well, I'm not going back there. And then I may give them a phone call and be like, you missed your session. And I mean, one, if you miss your session, you know you're going to you're charged for it. So now you're wasting your money. Is this what you want to do? Well, I was upset about what you said to me last week. And then I go, well, was it the truth?
Okay.
Radio silence. And I'm like, okay, so we both agree it's the truth. So you didn't like my application or how I brought you the truth. So let's make a deal then. So tell me how you'd prefer for me to tell you the truth while you try and apply yourself to it.
All right. So what are the tricks and tips that you would use then with managing those excuses of staying accountable to themselves?
Telling them the truth.
Okay.
Telling them the truth. You might have to, again, find a nice way to say it, and the truth about that is, if it meant something to you, you would have did it.
If
your
staying the course meant more than the donut, you would have
done it. And if staying the course, sometimes you got to give yourself a little bit of leeway. So
sure.
you grab a donut, and you know you grab a donut, and you know how much calories the donut is, you know how much sugar it is. Depending on you, it may not even be a bad thing, to be totally honest with you, because as a amateur, and I've been in the gym for years, and I go up and down with my body. Some days, if I have the time to be consistent in my workouts, again, within 4 or 6 weeks, I look like, oh, dude, you're lifting again. Yeah, I have free time. Literally, I have free time. And then there are times when I don't lift, but I still look athletic, and it's like, you train? I say, yeah, I'm a trainer. So, but I say that to say, all of that adds up, because when you start hitting your goals and you start getting your results, and your body starts to transform into a more lean muscle than fat type of body, which means your metabolism is up there. You going today, I'm going to have a donut. I'm going to go get coffee and have a donut today because I had a rough week. I did great. I hit the gym. I hit my gym 3 times this week. I hit my calorie goals all week this week. I feel amazing. A donut and a cup of coffee for that mental ease is what I need right now, so that next week I can smash these same goals and not have a donut because I won't need it because now I'm ready again. So the tip there would be understanding yourself and understanding, again, if it's important to you and how to get there.
Okay. On that note, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to start tackling the nutrition element. Back with more talk today right after this.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211. This New Year's Eve, come out to South Coast Bar and Grill in Breakers for Breakers Under the Stars. Kick out the old year and bring in the new year with an all-inclusive 3-course dinner with Prosecco for $75. General admission for $25. And with all-inclusive Prosecco, only $50. Music by Impulse Band, Rex, Lammy, and your favorite DJs. Come out, dine and dance the new year in with style at the South Coast Bar and Grill in Breakers this all year night. Tickets on sale now at South Coast Bar and Grill, Mango Trees Outside Bar, and Funky Tanks.
Tired of traffic congestion and parking problems? No problem. Just simply hop on and hop off the new and free Georgetown shuttle service to get around.
Thanks to the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, a new shuttle service is taking passengers around the busiest parts of Georgetown every day from Monday to Friday for free.
Operating now. For times, route maps, and more, visit energy.gov.ky/shuttle today.
Designated parking is available behind the immigration building.
Because life is about enjoying the ride.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, and pleased to have in studio again Mr. Andre Morgan of Train with Dre, here discussing New Year's fitness resolutions and how you can go about maximizing on your opportunity to actually achieve your fitness resolutions for 2021. Briefly already we've touched upon the mindfulness element, staying focused on why you're actually tackling these New Year's resolutions, whether it's to increase your overall health, and celebrating the wins as they come along.
That's right.
Wins are an important thing, no matter how small the win. A win is a win is a win. But there's also this one big kind of elephant in the room when we start talking about fitness, and that is the nutrition element. What we're actually physically consuming throughout the course of our days, our weeks, and throughout the course of 2021. And speaking to many trainers over the years, the physical activity, while it is extremely important to achieving your fitness goals, is actually the smaller portion of where the changes tend to need to be made.
When you compare the two, yes.
When you compare the two, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to be physically active, but it's what happens in the kitchen.
Yeah, what you put in is what you get out, literally. Yeah. And what you put in is what you get out, which is basically what you got to understand is your body is a engine. So it functions, right? That's the purpose of the body, is to function. So if you give the engine this set of ingredients, it's going to function based on the set of ingredients that you give it. And this is your diet. So your exercise is the engine working. Your diet is the ingredients you give to the engine for you to get through your exercise. Now, if you feed the body the things that it's not going to help you to achieve your goals, then you're not going to achieve your goals. It's quite simple.
So now talking to the busy, professional, possibly single parent.
Yeah.
You're working 8-9 hours a day if you factor in traffic, maybe 10 hours if you factor in traffic. You have little people you have to take care of,
Yeah.
devote a ton of energy, whether it's in the mornings or after work. So now it becomes a challenge with actually preparing those ingredients and preparing that food for you right now. Unless you've actually gone through the process and dissected your day and done all that, getting started in this process is one of the hardest factors for individuals. And unfortunately, many times it's those same individuals who will then turn around and go for the fast food element.
The convenient food.
Because it's convenient. It fits in their schedule because there's only 24 hours in that day.
And on honestly, it relieves the stress for them.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have a mountain of things to take care of, and you go, look, 3 minutes in the drive-thru, I'm okay with this.
Sure, that's just it, right?
Yeah, it feels like a win, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. And one of the things, I've been doing training for years, and I often at the end of the year or end of a period, I kind of assess my progress and assess my clients' progress and assess what seems to be a consistent problem. And the diet is a consistent problem. It's easy to grab something fairly healthy in the morning, and it's sort of easy to get it in the evening. But I realize at lunchtime is where most people really get stuck, because if you're stuck at work and you're stuck in meetings and you finally get a chance to get out, and when you get out, you got traffic to deal with. Again, you're gonna go for convenience. So what I started to do is I started doing this meal program for my clients and for other people who are interested in it. And what we did is I have a chef. The meals are prepared and they're portioned out to stay within a certain caloric restriction. However, it's nutrient dense. So when you have the meal, you feel satisfied. You don't feel full. So it's not an over-satiety, but you feel like you've ate something and you're okay. And I've launched a few. I've been going for. I think we started it in November. I want to say it was started in November, and the clients that I had on it, the top 2 or 3 comments was the convenience. It has literally made their life easier throughout the weekday. 2, the fact that they were losing, or they felt like they were losing inches already. So they'll feel their clothes feels different. They'll feel pants that normally feel tight or tight around the waist, it's not as tight anymore. And most of these clients weren't doing workouts as well. These were clients that came on for the nutrition program. And that program itself provided them with the same thing that would make them go to a drive-through, the convenience. But then it had that added benefit of it being healthy and it changing their entire mood throughout the day.
So quite a nice service you have.
Yeah.
What's it called? It's just built in the train of Drake.
It's just built in, yeah. So it's just a lunch meal program. It's literally called a lunch meal program.
All right. If people have more information or want more information on that lunch meal program, how can they get in touch with you?
They can actually jump on the website. The website, my website is Train, www.trainwd.com. And if
TrainWD.
Yeah, TrainWD.com. And when you go on the website, I believe it's on the promotions or services.
Okay.
One of the two spots. But when you get there, there's a link. You click on the link. It makes you send me an email. You type in what you want to do. That's your first point of contact, and we go from there.
Okay. Now, for those who are looking for improvement in the mornings or in the evenings, when it comes to improving their diet, what should they be looking for as far as and we talked about briefly during the break, different types of bodies, whether it's the relevant to the type of body you have, there's still some common necessities that you need to be factoring into your diet.
Yeah.
What does that include?
Balance.
Which means what?
So you wanna have balanced meals. So even in your breakfast, you want to try and keep it balanced. You want to have the right amount of protein, carbs, and fats.
And what is the right amount?
It will vary from person to person depending on their activity level and their current composition, body composition. But a good range to stay within, it's from my experience at least, it's between 30 to 40% proteins, about 35 or so percent carbs, and then the remainder fats and oils. Because if the body uses these things in a specific way, right? The protein helps you to feel full and helps to build muscle. And a lot of people neglect proteins. The carbs, which everybody thinks is the big enemy and you should always avoid carbs, carbs serve a purpose. This is why it's a part of the nutritional chart. And the purpose carbs provide is that it energy. So carbs is the primary source of energy that the body uses. And then your fats generally provide you with nutrients because the fats and the oils, that's what carry nutrients to the body. So balancing that now in your breakfast helps. So if you get up in the morning and you find a breakfast that has the right amount of protein, carbs, and fats in there, and you have that, then that kickstarts your body, and that kickstarts. A lot of people don't realize that your what you eat affects your mood.
Sure.
So
yes, absolutely.
So you have your breakfast, you feel a little bit more energized, your mood's different, your day becomes better.
I like it. On that note, let's go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, let's tackle some tricks that people can use to really get them started into their 2021 resolutions and goals. Back in the More Talk today, right after this.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Park your car this New Year's Eve and ride the Purple Ribbon Bus. It's free. Be safe and drink responsibly.
Arrive alive 345. Take the pledge, designate a driver, or ride the Purple Ribbon Bus on New Year's Eve. This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
This is how we wake you up in the morning.
Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Are you ready? Here we go. Set. I feel like running, skipping, running. Feel like skipping.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning. I will. So send me, Lord. I will go. Born again. Thank God I'm born again.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And again, a very happy New Year's Eve to all of our listeners out there in Radio Cayman Nation. We're here in studio with Mr. Andre Morgan of Train with Dre. And we've been discussing tackling your fitness goals or resolutions for 2021, if you have set any, and just how you can go about breaking down the year into manageable steps. Andre, during the break, we were briefly discussing some of the tips and tricks that people can use to, for lack of a better term, just kind of hijack their day and really just get into the zone. Many times, it's the course of life that takes us off our fitness journeys or whatever it might be. We have to get the call from our son's school. We got to go pick up our son from school, whatever it might be, and that's going to take it away from my afternoon kind of routine.
From your plan.
And that's where it kind of takes us off. So many times these little tips and tricks, like the individual that slept in their clothes in order to go running in the morning or having your shoes beside your bed. But from your perspective as a trainer, if you could isolate down to some of the tricks or tips that you would recommend to people to help. Go. Number one.
My brain goes 1,000 miles an hour, so I had a whole bunch in my head.
Routine was one.
Routine was one, but one popped up in my head. A tip and trick is to start with your weakest point.
Start with your weakest point. What do you mean?
If your weakest point is that you don't make it to the gym very often, start with making it to the gym.
Oh, okay.
So you identify what your weak point is, do it. Some people's weak point is diet. So start with adjusting your diet. So find out what your weakness is and just start with destroying that.
Start working on that.
Yeah. Make it a strength now.
Absolutely. That's a great one. They use it for the office a lot.
Yeah.
When you go into work, people tend to want to do the easy tasks first and save the big ones for last. No.
Get
go
the
after
stressful
the big
thing out
one.
of the way.
Yeah. The big one.
And that just popped up in my head, right?
All right.
The next one I think I mentioned, like you said, routine.
Yeah.
So start with a routine. A routine would be to say, you know what, every day at 8:45 I'm gonna have my breakfast, and you make sure every day at 8:45 you're having your breakfast, even on the weekends. A lot of times on the weekends, people go, I'm off of work, I don't have to get up.
Sure, they sleep in later.
They sleep in.
Yeah.
And the ripple effect of that is crazy.
No, absolutely. It's a knock-on effect, right?
Yeah, because one, you're not going to burn as much energy today because now you're going to sleep till 1 o'clock. Then you're going to get up at 1. You're going to be hungry as if you weren't sleeping till 1 o'clock. So now you're going to overeat. And I could go on and on.
No, you're absolutely right.
Effect. Yeah. So that's part of the routine. So the routine is to set a time and stick to it. So every day at 8:45, my routine is I'm going to have my breakfast every day. And you do it every day. And
what about the type of meals you have at 8:45? Is it better to stay with like the same meal at least for a little while to get into the routine?
That would be a next step. So the next step would be repetition or consistency. So it would be with your diet. So let's go with repetition with your diet. Have 3 top breakfasts. Make sure it's healthy. Make sure it's wholesome. Avoid processed food. So your 3 top non-processed, nutritionally dense breakfasts. Stick to that.
Stick to it.
Stick to that.
Don't vary. Don't go for diversity on this one.
Don't try and go, oh, well, maybe I should add. No, man, don't confuse yourself. Every day, spinach. I have a root. I do that as a trainer. So I often have an omelet from Foster's. And when I go and I get an omelet, it's all the veggies, a little bit of bacon, a little bit of chicken breast, black pepper, salt, olive oil.
So you know it right away. That's it.
That's it.
All right.
That's it.
I like
and
it.
That for me, that's so nutritionally dense. That has all the proteins, the fats, the carbs.
Sure.
Because the vegetables are carbs. People don't know that, you know. So I'd go and I have that, and
sure. I love it.
That's my consistency.
All right. So we have go for your weakest link first. Get into a nice routine and start the repetition with regards to whatever your routine is.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's
next
take
trick.
Two more tricks.
We were talking about water during the break.
Yeah. So water. So you have your glass of water. The average glass of water is actually not a glass because a glass is 8 ounces. Yeah. So the average glass you're getting 12 to 16 ounces. So a tip to do with that, because most people don't have enough water, is you have a 16 or 12 ounce glass, and every time you fill that up with water, you finish it. Finish it. You don't have to finish it right then and there, but you make sure before that glass leaves your table, or if you're at your office desk, you make sure that if I pour a glass as I sit down in the morning and I'm working and I get called to get up to go to my boss or my supervisor or to somebody else, another co-worker, and I go, wait, my glass is not finished. Finish it. And then go do what you're doing, come back, and if it's empty, refill it.
Yeah, that's a great one. You know, there's some people that actually use the alarms on their work desktop calendars, right? They've just kind of put an alarm
so
in there.
Reminder.
So at 11 o'clock in the morning, the water alarm kind of goes saying glass of water. I've heard about the paper clips. People put paper clips on their desk, and they use it for sales calls. Salesmen used to actually take these group of paper clips, and they'd have to make this many sales calls over the course of their day. And so whenever they would make a call, they would actually have a sip of water at the same time.
Okay.
And so they're managing.
That's really cool.
Kind of double hijacking their work stuff with the water.
With the water, yeah, kind of incorporating it, you know,
like
making it a lifestyle.
Yeah. And you mentioned stairs, always using the stairs. I like that one.
Yeah, or even parking far. I think I said this the last time. This is there's something called in diet and in your metabolism. There's something called non-exercise activity need. Can't remember the acronym for it. But what it signifies is the things that aren't workouts that we do that causes the body to use energy.
Sure.
Parking your car at the worst parking spot because you got to walk for a whole minute to get into the office is a great way to
absolutely
to burn extra calories without adding anything significantly big.
Absolutely correct.
Using the stairs twice out of the day. So you say, let's say you got to go up and down. You have several floors in your office, and you know you don't want to use it more than once. But you go, you know what? I'll use it when I get to work, and I'll use it when I'm leaving work. And
absolutely correct. It's a way of hijacking more steps.
A good and something that I'm going to tie it back into mindfulness because again my brain's going a mile an hour. Right?
Very quick. Go ahead.
So when you use the stairs, you get a time to process your thoughts and to think.
Absolutely.
So you're walking down the stairs at the end of a work day, and you're like, okay, well, that's done. I could close that book for today. What do I have to do today? Oh, I got to pick up my kid. I got to do this and I got to do that. Yeah. Oh, but I can call Jennifer to pick him up. Absolutely. And you know what? I can go and get a quick workout in today because now I have the time. Because I've gotten the chance to think and process while I'm so small tips like that, man. Mindful and just incorporate those tiny things.
It's great. You know, 2 other tricks I've used myself is one is make your bed. If you start off every day with making your bed, you win your first thing right off the bat. As soon as you open your eyes, you got out of bed, make your bed.
I read that somewhere.
I read that somewhere. A great speech by Navy SEAL about this one as well.
Jocko Welling.
Yes, and so no matter what, if you have the worst day possible, you'll still come home to a nice, beautiful bed.
He has a next one about saying yes.
Yes.
Despite the circumstances.
Say yes a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other one I have is, you mentioned park far away from your work.
Yeah.
No matter what at the grocery store, put your own cart away. Force yourself to take your cart from your car and put it back at the front of the store. It does 2 things. It shows a community service effort. You're not leaving your cart out there in the middle for someone else to go put away for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you get your extra steps in the process.
You get your extra steps. Yeah, that's brilliant.
And you feel good about it. As you walk back to the car, like, oh yeah, I did it. I won. I put my own cart away.
Yeah.
It's this little micro win. Anyhow,
nice.
Audrey, if you could, please pass along, what is your contact information again for anyone who's interested in your meal plan?
The easiest way is on the website, which is trainwd.com. That's trainwd.com. The other way is my telephone number. It's 1-345-928-3420. Then you have Instagram, which is Training with Dre. And you also have Facebook, which is Train You Fit. Again, I'll give you the two easiest ones, top ones. 1-345-928-3420. Send me a WhatsApp message. And train, trainwd.com.
Awesome. And then you have your fitness training, and you also have the meal plans, the lunch plans.
My purpose
available.
is to help people get the results they want. So I'm trying my best to find all the little things I can incorporate within the service to make sure that, you start training and you get your goals. Like this my 2021 resolution is to get people their results, man. Work with you and get it there.
Andre, thank you so much for taking time to come in. All
Thanks
the
for
best for
having me.
2021.
Thank you, and all the best to you and the rest of Cayman.
Alrighty, on that note, we're going to go to a 1:45 break. When we come back, we'll be sitting down with Ms. Georgie Loxton from Liberty Wealth to discuss financial planning for your 2021 goals.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. We are a not-for-profit, member-centric plan with a democratically elected volunteer board of trustees representing all sectors of the Cayman Islands economy. We have an all-in expense ratio of less than 1%, over 20,000 members, and $490 million in assets under management. We were the first multi-employer pension plan approved by the regulator in the late 1990s, and today we are still strong, secure, and are here for our employees and employers alike. If you would like to join or require further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
Dream a little dream with this year's holiday sale at Powerhouse Gym, King Sports Center. Get Fit 2021 sale from December 15th to January 15th. 2-for-1 Powerhouse Gym memberships for $650 or single memberships for $350. The perfect Christmas gift or New Year's resolution. Gift certificates are available. Call 946-5464 or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Remember, fit is not a destination, it is a way of life.
The road to becoming a British Overseas Territories citizen just became a lot smoother. You can now apply online at online.odg.gov.ky. If you or someone you know needs to be naturalized or registered as a British Overseas Territories citizen, or if you are a citizen and need to replace your lost or damaged certificate, complete the process at online.odg.gov.ky.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And now very pleased to have in studio Miss Georgie Loxton from Liberty Wealth, here to discuss financial planning, if that is one of your New Year's resolutions, which hopefully it is. Thank you for coming on Talk Today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so give us a bit of, because you've been on the show, on the station before, on Money Sense during our morning show before the Business Buzz. Just for our listeners who may not be fully aware of Liberty Wealth, give us a bit of background into yourself and your firm as well.
Sure. Well, I've been in Cayman for, crikey, almost 15 years now. Okay. And I've been in investment management and finance for 2 decades almost now.
Okay.
Starting in London before I moved out here. And I set up my firm, Liberty Wealth Partners, a couple of years ago with the goal to help people in Cayman really take control of their entire financial life. So I come from the investment management world, but what I saw with people was that the investing is really the last bit of it, of the whole financial plan, right? Because an investment portfolio is not a plan in itself. The investment portfolio ought to be the thing that funds your plan, right?
Okay, yes, no, of course.
So
yes,
you got to
yes,
know
yes,
what
yes.
you're doing, why you're doing it, right? What's your money for? You got to start there. And all too often I saw people starting at, should I own Facebook or Amazon or Tesla or, this or that? And that's just like this tiny, tiny final piece of the pie.
Sure.
But there's all this background stuff that has to start before you get there. And that's what I wanted to help people with in Cayman, and it's mostly super busy professionals who are great at earning money, but they don't really know what to do next. And the reason they don't really know what to do next is because nobody ever taught them what to do next.
Sure.
I always say we're sent out in the world with knowledge of the Greeks and trigonometry, but nobody ever teaches us about our money.
No.
And people, I think, generally are walking around with this kind of low-grade, constant anxiety about their money. It doesn't really matter how much or how little they have. Everyone's suffering from that same sort of affliction, if you like. And
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, and we don't talk about it,
No.
do we?
No, we're not allowed to talk about finance.
No.
Finance, politics, religion. It's
Right. Well, I think we're better at talking about all the other stuff, right?
social
all
media,
the other
yeah.
taboos.
On social media. Oh, yeah.
But money is still this big. I think we're getting better with it, but it's still a big taboo, and people don't talk about it, and people are stressed about it. And
Yeah,
I found that the stress it's not related to how much you have, interestingly.
What is it related to?
I think it's related to often a lack of control over it. You mentioned
Sure,
cash flow.
absolutely,
I think a lot of the day-to-day stress that people have around money is not really understanding where it goes. Right? It's coming in.
Yeah.
And it's going somewhere, but they don't really know where. And what I see a lot in Cayman is that when, people earn good salaries here, professionals in Cayman, and their salaries can go up very quickly. And, I mean, there are obviously people in Cayman who are living paycheck to paycheck, and that's such a hard situation. But what I started to see was that people who are earning more and more, there's money left. So they sort of stop looking at it. And that almost increases the stress that they feel because they just don't understand what's going on with it.
Okay.
Right? They don't really understand what's coming in and what's going out. And that's the key place to start.
Okay.
Again, it's not the investment portfolio. It's really taking control of your day-to-day cash flow.
Yeah.
That
Which
helps
was the first thing on my list, yeah.
Yeah, helps people move from that, that sort of constant low-level anxiety that they have to actually living a life where they're not thinking about money on a day-to-day basis. And honestly, every single person that I speak to in some way, shape or form says to me that what they really want is to never have to think or worry about money anymore.
Sure. That freedom.
Total freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do what you want, when you want, where you want, with whoever you want, for as long as you want, without having
That's the dream,
to
right?
think or worry about money anymore.
That's the dream, like that freedom from having to constantly have to think about the next.
Yeah.
So if my goal is to be a billionaire and have a yacht, how are you going to
Is that your goal?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell me more.
Without,
Why?
honestly, yeah, freedom. Absolute freedom to
Okay.
be able to do whatever I want on
Okay.
a yacht. Gets me around the world.
Yeah.
I don't need the planes anymore.
Yeah.
I get to go as slow as I want or as fast as I want, relatively within,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I can go swimming whenever I want.
Yeah.
I can live a life of abundance whenever I want.
So it's not about being a billionaire.
The billionaire was just like the tag on.
Yeah.
It's really the yacht
Yeah.
and that really travel whenever I,
Yeah.
the freedom
Yeah.
to be able to get up and go wherever I want. And,
Yeah.
But
So that's the really important place to start.
Yeah.
That's your why.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think most people don't know their why.
Sure.
And they think that the answer is a budget. The answer is
The-
not a budget.
no,
I'm
the
just
why
going to
is-
say that.
yeah, the why is the
Yeah, because
important one.
budgets are horrible things. You were just talking about fitness and diet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a diet.
Absolutely.
People want to resist it. It feels like deprivation. You set it, you blow it. You say, I'll start again next month. And so it goes on. We've got to start with the why. Really understanding your vision for your life. Because money's the tool.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely
just the
correct.
tool.
That's all it is.
Like, it's not inherently good or bad. It's just the tool that we use or we want to use in the best possible way to give us the best possible life that we can live. And that, of course, looks different for every single person. But if we can figure out our why is money important to us? What do we want it to do for us? Our vision for our life. We can start to become inspired and motivated by money, because I have never met anyone, Raymond, who tells me that they wake up in the morning bouncing up and out of bed, excited about updating their budget spreadsheet.
No.
I don't think... there may be the odd person.
There are.
Right, there's the odd person on the
There's the
planet,
odd type
right?
A
That's
who's actually
really
wants to see the
inspired by the...
bottom line,
But
yeah.
most people aren't.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
that's not inspiring. But if you're in a job you hate and your vision is to quit and to move to Tuscany and learn how to paint, or to go back to university and become a professor of psychology, because that's your passion. You've got to know what the vision is. And when you become really clear on that, then you can start to be motivated by using your money wisely in a way that's going to push you in that direction. You've got to know the direction you're traveling in. It's a bit like saying, you know, are we going to take the bus, the plane, or the boat to go to this place? But you don't know where the place is yet.
Sure.
Right? You decide what mode of transport you're going to use once you've decided where you're going.
Yeah.
So we've got to do that. Apply that same principle to our money. Figure out where you're going before you start getting to like the investment options and, you know, what stocks do I need to own and what does my asset allocation look like? And those are important questions, but they just come later.
They come later in the equation. Unless you have a yacht, then you have the yacht first.
Yeah. I'm with you on the yacht.
Yeah, see?
That's a dream for us as
It
well.
is. See, it's a great one.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this one then. So at various different stages of our lives, that why can change.
Of course.
So if we're talking to a 19-year-old right now, his or her why is, and their view of freedom is be fundamentally different than a 60-year-old who's potentially looking to retire. When it comes to financial planning, though, a lot of those steps tend to be similar, I'm assuming, when it comes to saving or managing their cash flow. The budget still has to factor into that equation.
Absolutely.
So how do we communicate the budget situation to a 19-year-old and how they can get started on managing their cash flow? Because whatever we're going to say to a 19-year-old, theoretically, the same cash flow management techniques are going to apply to the 60-year-old.
The principles are the same.
So what factors into those principles other than spend less than you're
Right,
bringing
that's
in?
it.
Okay.
I mean, you know, I have this slide that I use in my when I go around talking to people, and I do quite a lot of that. And it's, you know, here are the 5 things you need to know. These are the 5 steps. Number 1, spend less than you earn. I mean, you got to start there.
You have to start there, yeah.
You got to start there.
So no credit cards.
No credit cards, yeah. And if you find yourself in this incredibly tough situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck, the place I think for people to look is actually their income rather often than their spending. Like, look at the ways that you can grow your income. So often we get, you know, the media like fixates on if you cut out lattes, you'll be a millionaire by the age of 65. I hate that stuff.
No, it's
right?
Yeah.
I mean, the $3 coffee, you know, yes, they add up, but they're the little things. It's the big stuff that we want to focus on.
So is that looking at whether it's upskilling to potentially earn more, finding different cash flow mechanisms, so different flows of income coming in?
Both of those things, right?
Okay.
Upscaling by investing in yourself, in your education. You know, there's always a way that you can go get an extra qualification, get that step up, you know, get promoted, find other ways to get another income coming in. There are lots of things that people can do. I think fixating on the lattes, they're the really small things, the big stuff. The big stuff is the income. The big stuff is the house that you live in.
I mean, as far as like paying the mortgage, you mean? Like
I see in Cayman, people buying way too much house.
Sure.
Right? And they're bogged down in, you know, 50% of their income going towards servicing their house and the bills and all the rest of it.
Of course, yeah.
So it's, you know, the income that we earn, the houses we live in, the cars that we drive.
Sure.
The cars that we drive. I mean, look around the cars in Cayman.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And, you know, maybe the schools that we send our kids to are the 3 big things.
So is that almost the scenario of manage your keeping up with the Joneses mentality? Is that really where we're at here now?
I mean, resolution number 1, stop keeping up with the Joneses.
All right, so that's the first one.
Yeah.
And then get a budget.
Then start to manage your cash flow as opposed to, I think, thinking about budget. Conscious spending plan is the way I like to think about it. But
conscious spending plan, I like it. All
right. But the keeping up with the Joneses is pervasive. It's insidious. It's not a constant decision. It's not a conscious decision that people make.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But it's just there all the time.
It is. It's actually a big reason why for much of the anxiety and much of the reason why we have resolutions. Is because people have spent so much time keeping up with the Joneses in other areas. They've lapsed in other areas. On that note, we do have to go to our 2 p.m. headline news. When we come back, we'll delve more into saving and investing. Back with more talk today, right after this.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee releases a statement concerning the new strain of virus in the UK. He states, all Cayman's PCR tests will correctly identify the new strains of SARS-CoV-2 as positive cases. Additionally, if Cayman decided to, we are able to send samples to CARFA, the UK, and elsewhere to be gene sequenced to determine the variants present. In international news, Pope Francis will not lead the Vatican's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day celebrations due to sciatic pain, the Vatican said in a statement on Thursday. This marks the first time the Pope has missed New Year's Eve or Christmas celebrations, but not the first event he has skipped. On February 27th, Pope Francis, who is 84, canceled a scheduled mass for what the Vatican press office described as a slight imposition, denying rumors that he could have contracted COVID-19. He was later seen coughing, sneezing, and speaking with a hoarse voice. And the Christmas Day bombing in downtown Nashville led to phone and data service outages and disruptions over hundreds of miles in southern U.S., raising new concerns about the vulnerability of U.S. communications. The blast seriously damaged a key AT&T network facility, an important hub that provides local wireless, internet, and video service and connects to regional networks. Backup generators went down, which took service out hours after the blast. A fire broke out and forced an evacuation. Those are your latest headlines here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, and pleased again to have in studio Miss Georgie Loxton from Liberty Wealth. A very special show discussing New Year's resolutions because it is New Year's Eve. But also, Georgie's going to be the last guest on our show for 2020.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of a cool little
I feel very honored.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool. We're ending on a really high note, right? We're ending on this note of 2020 has been a year for us, been very tough for a lot of families. And so we start looking at 2021 and how we can improve upon. We've talked about the mindfulness, we've talked about the fitness element, but finance is another big one, especially when we start talking about how we can increase our income, manage our spending a little better, and how we can invest and save more for those rainy days, like a whole year called 2020, right? Mm-hmm. One massive rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
So from your standpoint as an investment manager? Is that the right term to
financial
use?
planner and investment manager, absolutely.
Financial planner. I like the word planning. I'm a big planner myself. So we talk about whether you're 19 years old or you're 6 years old, your goals are different, but some of the steps involved are quite similar. So saving and investing. Yeah. When we talk about saving, what does that mean to you from an investment manager standpoint?
So saving, first of all, let's just acknowledge saving's really hard for humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what it involves us being able to do is say no to something today in order to say yes to something later. And we humans aren't great at that.
No.
You know, we're not. And I just think it is important just to, to say it's tough.
Sure.
It's tough for us humans to do that. But it's so important because without savings, we have no safety net. We have no margin of error. When things like COVID come along and hit us, or sickness, or, a divorce, or all those things that happen, like the car breaking down, the roof falling in, those things, if you don't have any savings, are so stressful. And part of the reason that we have to save is because at some point in the future, we have to generate income from something other than the work that we do. Because we either won't want to work anymore or we won't be able to work anymore.
Sure.
And that's really the crucial point. It's this concept of retirement, and I use that word loosely because the whole framework around retirement is changing because we're living so much longer, and our whole work lives are going to be very different, I think, in the future, really, to that traditional you start work at 25 and you work till you're 65 and then you stop and you never work another day. I don't think that that's necessarily how it's going to work going into the future, but still at some point we need to replace our income with the money that we've saved and invested along the way. But it's really hard. I think the first place that people have to start, again, it goes back to this why, is getting really clear on your values. What's important to you? The vision. And then you have to start to look at the ways that you're using your money today and see if those two things are aligned. The things that you say are important to you and the way that you use your money.
Okay.
Because I guarantee they're probably not. Because again, you're human. We're all human, right? So the things that people say are important to them. More time with my family. I want to travel more. I want to have time to read. I want to have time to paint. These are the kinds of things that people tell me are important. And then we look at the way that they're using their money, and it becomes clear that those two things aren't aligned. So we want to pull our values and the use of our capital together. And it's a constant process because you can pull it together and then it slowly drifts apart again.
Absolutely.
Partly because we look at what other people are doing, and we touched on this before the break,
absolutely.
the keeping up with the Joneses. We look across our garden fence and we say, they have a nice car parked in their driveway. Oh, they've done some upgrades to their home. Oh, they must be doing well. Maybe we'll do that too.
Yeah.
And that creeps in, and then we realize, hold on a minute, they weren't our values, they were somebody else's values. So getting really clear on the values. And I think when people really get crystal clear on that, and then they look at where their money's going, saving almost starts to happen automatically, because you become really conscious of how you're spending your money, and you realize that thing's not important to me. That thing that I'm spending money on every month is not important to me, and I'm just going to stop it. And if we can do that, we can also almost, along with a few other tricks like automating off cash flow and paying ourselves first and things like that, which we can come on to.
Oh, please, yeah.
You can start to sort of save money without actually having to have a spreadsheet that you update every week or every month.
That's great.
So consciously understanding what you're spending money on and making sure that it's aligned with the things that you say are important to you.
Sure. And when you mentioned automated cash flow, cash payments,
yeah.
What did you mean by that?
What do I mean? Well, ideally, we want to live in this situation whereby our money life is really simple and we've got processes in place. And that means that when our money comes in to a bank account, because we get paid on a monthly or weekly basis, it's automatically going to all the places it needs to go to based on the things that we want to achieve in the future.
Okay.
So most people know generally what their fixed expenses are on a monthly basis. If they have a mortgage, most people will be able to say my mortgage is X, my school fees are Y, my other bills are this. So you know how much money you need to cover all your fixed costs, right? So if you had this situation where your money comes into a bank account and automatically you move all of those fixed costs somewhere else and all of those expenses get paid out of that bank account.
Okay.
Things like annual house insurance premiums would be included in that. If you pay your school fees annually, it would be included in that. It would be accumulating every month. Because those expenses that don't happen monthly tend to catch people out. They forget that their house insurance is due in June and the school fees are due in July. And then all those payments come at once.
Yes.
And they're thrown totally off guard.
Of course.
Right? So you have to take those into account every month, right, in your cash flow. So it's going somewhere, all those expenses are coming out. When it comes to pay your insurance premiums, the money's there.
Exactly. Okay.
So it's been going there every month.
Okay.
Then you look to the future and you say, based on the things we want to achieve in the future, our future goals, maybe that is we want to save a down payment to buy a house. Maybe we need a new car. Maybe we want to take X amount of trips every year. Maybe we want to set aside this amount for our kids' college fund. Maybe we want to retire.
Maybe we want to buy a yacht.
Maybe we want to buy the yacht. So we're going to move that money every month.
Okay.
Based on our future priorities. And the word priorities is really important because when we look at the money what we have, we realize it's limited. No one has enough money to do everything they want to do tomorrow. We can't buy the yacht and travel the world and, all of those things. So we have to figure out the priorities and how do we order those things and make sure that our money's going to those things that are important to us. So we've taken care of our fixed expenses. We've taken care of the future. What's left is everything we have to spend to get us through the day.
Absolutely.
On groceries and fun and eating out and, a new dress for a party or whatever those things are. It doesn't really matter what we spend that money on. We don't have to update a spreadsheet because we know we're paying our bills and we know the future's taken care of. That's the kind of structure I like to put around people's cash flow, and it frees them from really having to think about money on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
They know that the things that are important to them are being taken care of.
So first, get your why in order. Figure out what it is that you need to stop keeping up the Joneses.
Yeah.
Automate your cash flow so you know that your priority bills or your bill period are getting sorted out. And then whatever you have left over, figure out how to best use that for your why.
Yeah. Can I say one thing about keeping up with the Joneses?
You can say
because I think
Absolutely.
This is probably the most important thing that people need to understand about money. When you see somebody driving an expensive car, or living in an expensive house, the thing that comes into our heads as humans is, boy, they're doing really well.
Sure.
Right? Where did they get the money to do that? Now, when we actually take a step back and look at it, we know nothing about that person's financial life, right? If we did know something, the only thing we do know about that $100,000 car, $50,000 car, let's say, which is quite common. I don't know. Does an Audi set you back $50,000? Probably.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah. The $50,000 car is either they have $50,000 less today than they did yesterday, or they have $50,000 more in debt today than they did yesterday. So what we're seeing is not wealth. We're seeing wealth departed. We're seeing
That's a great way to look
the
at it.
opposite of wealth.
Absolutely.
Because wealth is what you don't see. It's not what you see. The car is not the wealth. The car is the wealth having gone. The wealth, the real wealth, in terms of that freedom to do what you want, is in the fully funded retirement account that you don't see.
Sure.
Right? It's in the house that's paid off that you don't see. You might see the house, but you don't know whether it's paid off or not.
Sure.
So the fancy things that we see people have is not true wealth. It's actually the opposite.
It's a great way to look at it, to kind
It's
of stare
wealth
that.
departed.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so important, because as humans, we look at what people are doing and we want to keep up. It's built into our evolution. You know, we're tribal creatures, and if we're left behind the pack, we're the ones that get picked off by the lion.
Yeah.
That's basically what's going on in our brains. We don't consciously know that, and stepping away from that and realizing that what we see is not quite what we think we see can help us move away from that. I mean, that just insidious trap.
It is a very big trap.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to learn that at a very young age. You have to start
Yeah.
really conditioning kids away from that
Oh,
social
yeah.
peer pressure
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
All right. So we have that collection of funds after everything is kind of been taken care of. We know our why, and we're working towards our why. And this is where we have to use that extra money that's there, whatever amount it is, to work for us in some capacity. Where does this take us in the conversation from your standpoint?
Right. So you've got the savings. You haven't got any. You've cleared any credit card debt, right? You've got
gone.
no high interest rate debt at all.
So before we start on savings, we need to sort out this high interest rate.
Totally.
Okay.
High interest rate debt, which
Yes.
would be things like credit card debt.
Sure.
Car loans, perhaps, they're often quite a high interest rate. Mortgage debt, I would kind of put into another bucket, because that's low, particularly low interest rates right now. But let's assume you've done that and you've got a pot, and you set aside some of that cash to always have in cash for the rainy day, for the things that we don't know what the thing's going to be.
Absolutely.
Right, because there's going to be stuff in 2021 and stuff in 2022 that we have no idea what those things are yet, that we're going to need that margin of error.
Let's not scare anybody.
Yeah.
It's been a rough year.
There's always something in our lives, right? And it might not be next, but at some point.
Absolutely correct. I
Right?
know what you're saying.
And that's what helps you sleep at night.
Sure.
So we keep that. And I like to say to people, ideally, you have a minimum of 3 months of living expenses in a cash fund in the bank. And for some people, that's a lot. It's a lot higher than that. You know, if you're the sole provider for a family and you maybe have a lumpy income, you might want that to be more.
Sure.
6 months, maybe even a year.
Okay.
Minimum of 3, ideally.
Okay.
Then you can start thinking about investing. And that's the process by where we take that money and we put it somewhere with the goal of it increasing the return over the long run, right?
Sure.
Because if you keep your money in cash in the bank, it feels really safe to you, because every time you log on to your bank account, you see that same number of dollars there. But there's a really big problem with that, and there's that thing called inflation.
Yes.
Which means that every year, the cost of the stuff that you need to buy is going up by, at the moment, somewhere around 3% maybe, which doesn't feel like much year on year, but decade by decade, that eats away at your money. Such that if you said to me, I'm so lucky I have $1 million in cash in my bank account, and 20 years later you say, I still have $1 million in cash in my bank account, you will say, I've kept my money. And I will say to you, well, the cost of living over that period has roughly doubled. Your money now buys half as much stuff. So your purchasing power has halved. And we have to think about our money in terms of our purchasing power, what it can actually buy, as opposed to the number of units of currency that we have.
Sure.
right? It's what the number of units of currency can buy that matters. So cash in the bank is inherently very, very risky over the long run because it goes backwards. It feels safe over the short run, but it doesn't get us towards our goals. So we have to do something else with our money. And that means that we have to put it somewhere where we're going to earn a return, but we're going to go through what we call volatility, right? In that every time we log on to our account, we're not going to be quite sure how much we're going to see there. Right?
That could be quite anxiety driving.
Exactly. That's the really hard bit for people, because people hate volatility, but only because they don't really understand it.
No, sure. Because that's something that's measured over a long run.
Exactly.
And we tend to look at it from I just got punched in the gut.
Exactly. And I can tell you, if you invest your money, which you have to do to get to a point where you can have that freedom, you're going to get punched in the gut. Yeah. Roughly once every, 3 to 4 years, it's going to feel pretty painful.
Yeah.
Now, the way to think about the volatility is it's just the wiggle around the long-term uptrend. Right? We have this long-term uptrend and it wiggles around it. It doesn't go up in a straight line. It goes up in this wiggly line. The only way we get a return on our money is if we take on that volatility. No volatility, no return. You keep it in cash and you go backwards. Right? The volatility is what gives us the return. It's the price of admission that we have to pay in order to make anything.
I understand.
Yeah?
I understand completely, yes.
Scary. It is scary. It's
Sure.
really scary, because what happens is, the stock market falls, and this year it fell close to 40%.
Yeah.
It recovered, in a matter of almost weeks.
But you have to be willing to go through that 40%.
You've got to be able to go through it. Ideally, you just don't look at it. The best investors on the planet do not look at their accounts.
Sure.
They just don't look at them.
No, absolutely.
But you've got to be able to go through that, and you've got to know that it's going to turn around and come back up again, assuming that you're diversified. You don't have all your money in one thing. If you have all your money in one thing, it's all in Tesla or some other hot stock. Like, all bets are off.
Sure.
But let's assume you're globally diversified in a sensibly, hopefully low-cost portfolio. It's going to go down, but it's going to turn around and come back up again. You can never lose all your money. That's the fear, right? The fear is I'm going to be living on... If I invest my money, I'm going to end up living under a bridge because it's going to go to zero.
Sure. That's why people tend to look at their homes as that big investment. I'm putting all my money into my home, so I know it's safe. It's in my home.
Right, you can see it and you can touch
You
it.
can see
and
it.
you can
It's
feel
tangible,
it. Right.
yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Whereas the stock market feels, people don't understand. They think they own casino chips.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's almost, it's a virtual network. It's just kind of sitting out there.
But it's companies.
It
you
is.
own bits of
You
lots
own
and
bits
lots of
of
companies. And
Absolutely.
everybody ultimately wants to own companies. And there's
Sure.
this amazing way you can do it by owning shares in the best companies in the world. And that, over the long run, will give you an amazing return that will help you get to where you want to go.
That's a perfect place for us to actually go to our next commercial break. Let's go to our 2:15 break. When we come back, we'll be sitting down more with Miss Georgie Loxton of Liberty Wealth.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Attention, Caymanians! The registration deadline for the 2021 elections has been extended until 20 January 2021. Caymanians turning 18 on or before the May 26 elections may register now. In order to vote in the 2021 elections, you must register by the 20th of January. For more information, visit elections.ky or the elections office at Baytown Office Suites opposite the Wharf Restaurant.
This New Year's Eve, come out to South Coast Bar and Grill in Breakers for Breakers Under the Stars. Kick out the old year and bring in the new year with an all-inclusive 3-course dinner with Prosecco for $75. General admission for $25. And with all-inclusive Prosecco, only $50. Music by Impulse Band, Rex, Lammy, and your favorite DJs. Come out, dine and dance the new year in with style at the South Coast Bar and Grill in Breakers this all year night. Tickets on sale now at South Coast Bar and Grill, Mango Trees Outside Bar, and Funky Tangs.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for the tail end of our show, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And our special show today talking about New Year's resolutions. And now we're discussing the financial resolutions that many people and many families are looking at as they enter 2021. And in studio, Miss Georgie Loxton of Liberty Wealth. Georgie, so before the break, we were briefly discussing what people need to be looking at as far as why they want to be saving or investing their money, what they want to use it for, and briefly touch upon the stock market element. But when it comes to investment options for individuals in Cayman, there's a diversity of income levels. We have some people that are earning many tens of thousands a month, some people that are earning $500 a month, and some people who are just kind of in that middle bracket. They're middle income earners, so to speak. The options available to them aren't all the same. So walk us through some of the options that might be available to the average family out there that has 2 kids in school and has a mortgage to pay and limited scope of revenue that's sitting out there to invest.
It's hard in Cayman, unfortunately. That I think it's getting better slowly. But if we were in the US or in the UK, the options for investing, $100 or a couple of $100 a month are endless nowadays. In Cayman, nobody's really come along with a great option here. The things that I say to people, if they can't, come to someone like me and I love helping, I will sit and help anybody who sends me an email and says, can I come in and see you?
Sure.
And whether or not that person's going to end up becoming a client, is another thing, because I have a minimum annual fee, and it sort of depends on their income level more than anything, whether they see the value in paying me to help them with all this stuff. So for people who, don't fall into that bracket, the local banks have offerings. They're fine. They have several different funds you can look at. They'll have a fund that is mostly equities, which is when you own the bits of the companies.
Okay.
That's where you're going to make the real long-term return, but you have to go through that volatility. And then
Sure,
they'll have what they call lower risk ones, but they're really just lower volatility.
Sure.
So you're going to get a lower return because you're not taking on so much volatility. So if you get a lower return, you have to remember that you're going to have to pull another lever to get where you want to go. And that lever might be that you're going to have to save more. You're going to have to spend less. Maybe you're going to have to earn more. Or maybe you're going to have to scale back your expectations in retirement. Or maybe you're going to have to work longer. Right? If your return's lower, you're going to end up with less. So
Absolutely correct,
there's always a trade-off if you don't want to take on that volatility.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? The volatility is going to give you the return. So they have funds varying in their asset allocation, the mix of what we call bonds, which are the lower return but lower volatility part of a portfolio, and the equities, which are the stocks and shares, the bits of companies, which have the higher return over the long run, but you take on more volatility to get that return. The other options are the pension plans, and I know people have mixed feelings about the Cayman pension plans, but the pension plans are really pretty good, and the returns have really been pretty good.
Sure, yeah,
I think often people don't understand their pension statements, so they don't really know the returns that they've made. But you can put voluntary contributions into the pension plans, and you can choose how those voluntary contributions are invested. So you can opt to take on more volatility and get more return.
Sure.
And that money that you put in voluntarily, you get to take out in a lump sum when you retire.
Okay.
Right? So the good thing about that is that it's actually tied up, which for many of us humans is a good thing because it means you can't spend it.
You can't spend it.
Right? You're actually putting it somewhere for the future and you can't get at it.
Absolutely.
And that's quite powerful.
Savings is.
Yeah. So I urge people to understand the pension plan that they're in. And if they're in one that hasn't had good performance, to change, like to get your employer to change your pension plan and go to one that's performed better. And you can put in voluntaries to that. And that's, a very cost-effective way of increasing your saving on a monthly basis.
That's great. Thank you. We actually have one caller on the line.
Oh,
headset there. And then I have one more question as well regarding the asset mix that you talked about just now. Good afternoon, caller. Thank you for calling Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Singh, and good afternoon to the young lady there. Just wish you a happy new year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Everyone else also. I heard earlier on about New Year's resolutions and all that. Wonderful bits of advice and suggestions they were giving. Personally, I've never made one in my life. I don't intend to do anything like that. I thought of those. Believe in those kinds of things. You try to do the best that you can each day, and you can't correct the past, so you try to make the best of correct any mistakes you've made in the past, not into your present, because the future never is, never was, always shall will be. So, the things about financing and all, it's what we've got to understand. This is a very different game, man. For people my age and even some younger and all that, it's very, very different. They moved into a total different type of economy, and it's difficult for some people to grasp on to that. We have a pension system that's mandatory for 85% of the working force, which is a private, maybe more than that. It's mandatory, so they have no choice, really. It has to be done, and it's handled by the private sector, mandatory, not by the government. I don't know of any other country where that happens. I don't think so. I've lived and worked in 3 other countries, not just what I've visited, lived and worked. It doesn't happen there, where the mandatory things are controlled by private sector, not by the government. And so it's very, very difficult to say. It's difficult to do when you say you can change a plan, change this and change that. They're working with a company. Company takes that plan out, and so that's how it is. You stay with that plan, they won't have a job. And it's good advice, but we've got to understand what we have, what obtains here is a very, very unique system, totally unique, with no direct form of income tax, which I can't think of any country that doesn't have that. So we have a very unique situation. So we have to try to find our way around that. And so forth, unemployment compensation taxes. We saw what happened where we had to bring back $400 million of that money sent away by private companies and invested and so these, if it was actually given out back to the people, it would have been representative of an unemployment compensation tax that people pay in all countries I can think of. So we're a unique situation, very unique. So people will learn as they go along just how to adjust to this. I don't know how much longer that will last. I really don't. But anyway, we can just look forward to a new year, trusting in that we won't have a repetition or any reoccurrence of the COVID being in any big magnitude on us and so forth, and that we'll gradually have to reopen our borders. We know that we are totally dependent on that. So
I appreciate that.
That's just about as much as I can say. Happy New Year to all. Look forward to some happiness. We can't
Absolutely.
Just look the droll things and the serious things in life. We have to think about some happiness and some things that are more, tending to be frivolous even. Anyway, have a wonderful day.
Have a
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for calling in. That was our last caller for 2020 on Talk Today. It's very happy it was Mr. Charleston that called in. So, Georgie, talking very, very quickly because we're out of time on the show, if you could list off top 3 tricks or tips for individuals or families, relevant of age, that they could do to start saving a little more today. Anything that comes from your mind from a financial planning standpoint.
Track where your money's going.
Write it all down.
Write it down for a month, ideally, if you can. Align the use of your money with the things that you say are important to you. And a final one that we haven't talked about is track your net worth.
Elaborate very, very quickly if you can.
Your net worth is the value of the assets that you own. So that's, if you have a house, you've got cash in the bank, pension, and you take from that the debt that you owe. So what you have less what you owe is your net worth. And it's not as related to income as people think. Sure. And that's a figure that everybody ought to know, and they ought to track that over time.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for this. If anyone has any questions about general retirement, investing, etc., how can they get in touch with you at Liberty Wealth?
The best way is to hop onto my website, which is www.libertywealth.ky, and drop me a line there.
Fantastic. And that's Georgie Loxton, Loxton. Georgie, thank you so much for taking the time to come in.
Thank you for having me.
And last guest of 2020, so it's a big one.
It is a big
crikey.
one.
You got to say crikey one more time.
Everybody.
So you got to say crikey one
crikey.
more time. Crikey. I actually wrote that down. I first wrote down on the show. On that note, we do need to call it a wrap for today's show. Thank you again to all of our Thank you again to all of our loyal listeners out there in Radio Cayman Nation, to Miss Susan Watson, to Encore's Cayman, Trainer Dre, and Miss Georgie Loxton from Liberty Wealth. On behalf of the entire Radio Cayman family, thank you for sharing your afternoon and your year with us. I'm Raymond Singh. God bless, and have an enjoyable, safe rest of your year and a very prosperous 2021.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.